don't have time for this. You stupid thing. No! Why is it being such a stupid idiot? What is the reason?
It's finicky.
Put my seatbelt on.
Alright, now we're going to turn off the radio.
Okay.
Alright.
Are you going?
Yeah.
Okay. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Fine. We've been remodeling our basement.
Yeah.
I hate drywall.
So how many days did that take you to, like, get it up and sand it and stuff?
So it took us a day and a half to put the drywall up. Then it took us an entire day to mud and tape it, because me and Josh don't know what we're doing, and so we rely on Adam, his best friend, to help us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he knows things.
Yeah.
So he had come over and helped us a few times, and then we were unsupervised during the mud and taping. And so we didn't do it very good, because you have to put the initial layer on with the tape and then put another coat of mud over the tape. And then with a bigger like knife thingy, you have to then go over it again, but you have to make sure you're making the ends really smooth.
So that you don't technique.
Yeah, so you don't have to like sand it too much. Well, Josh is like overkill about everything, and so he put on the thickest layer of this stuff and left me to sand everything. He was like, I have to go do call reports, because he's a salesman, so he has to go do his call reports. And then there's some kid offered to mow our lawn because it looks so bad. And he's like, no, it's okay, I'll do it. And I was like, you should have just paid the kid. He's like, no, I'll do it, but I think it's because he didn't want to sand. Yeah. So he's like, I'll mow the lawn. And I was like, no. And so I finished sanding. It took me at least 4 hours to sand all of that. And then Adam came over yesterday to inspect our work, and he's like, well, I guess we can just put a really thick layer of texture over this, because it was not good.
Oh man, were you wanting there to be texture?
Yes.
Okay, so that was part of the plan. At least there's that.
It was part of the plan, but good thing we wanted a lot of texture is all I can say.
Yeah.
And so now we're waiting for the texture to dry, and we're also trying to decide about paint, which is the scariest thing. Yeah, I haven't decided, because I bought really dark flooring, okay? And we want it to be like a really moody room. So like dark colors,
just
comfy, and like wood accents, so it just looks really like homey, right? Yeah. And so I show Adam the colors I chose and the floor that we got, and he's like, do you want this to be a dungeon? I was like, well, I mean, no, but,
So is he an interior designer?
Well, he works on a lot of houses, and I think he's like...
He probably has an eye for it.
Yeah, he probably just knows what's in style, and he's like, this is too much. So, because I was going to do a dark ceiling and one dark wall, and the other walls to be a lighter wall. And he was like, that's going to be way too dark. So...
Yeah, but, here's the thing.
I just don't want it to look bad, because then I have to redo it.
I don't know if there's such a thing as too dark, though, because, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's easier on the eyes.
Because a basement, I feel like, it's all in how you decorate it.
Yeah, and you have lamps everywhere.
Well, and we got these, like, we're doing can lights, right? And they're bright as fuck. So I'm like, it's not going to be a dungeon, because Josh brought the brightest lights I've ever known to man. So, I don't know.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's where you go.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I wasn't paying attention to help you, so we can just do a U-turn.
But you know what? The GPS didn't even warn me about that.
No, it didn't.
At all.
Well, that's fine.
Well, anyway.
I hate when police officers look at me as I'm driving, because I feel like they notice something.
Yeah, you're like, I know there's something wrong, isn't there?
I know. Because I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, because I know. I've only been pulled over 3 times.
I've been pulled over.
For speeding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I got pulled over one other time for not stopping. So, when you turn right, like, at a light, and you're turning right.
You're, like, yielding to the traffic.
Yeah, you yield to the traffic, and then you go. Well, apparently I didn't yield enough. he said, you have to come to a complete stop and then go. And I was like, that's not a yield. A yield is to slow down.
Yeah.
Check.
Cautious.
Check for that it's clear and then whatever. He's like, no, you have to stop. And I'm like, that's a stop sign. This is a yield.
Although, he might be right. If it's a red light, I think you do still have to stop, look, and then go. In case there's, like, pedestrians and stuff.
Well,
that might be why.
I didn't fight it. I just paid it. But...
Well, you know which one I didn't know about? Is the first time I ever got pulled over. And I didn't know I was getting pulled over is how, like, dumb I was. So I pulled all the way into a 7-Eleven parking stall, and he pulled me over in the stall.
Oh, really?
And I got out, and he's like, hey, I'm pulling you over. I'm like, oh, what'd I do? And he was like, well, I was pulled over on the side of the road, and you didn't switch lanes. You could have killed me. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I think it's if anyone's on the side of the road, you're supposed to go in the other lane.
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's been people clipped and just... Well, also because people just swing their doors wide effing open.
Right.
And with no care in the world of who's there or what's coming at you.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, I think I knew that because I was told by the driving instructor guy. That was not purposely in my test, but it was when I was on my freeway part of my test, and he said, you got to get over. And that's the only reason why
And I wonder if, like, when I was doing my testing, we just never came across that.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe it is part of the test and we just don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe we just guessed.
Yeah, we're like, oh.
Like, whatever the safest thing, that's what you should do.
Yeah. You know, it's probably how you should live your life.
Yeah.
What's the best decision?
Right. All right. Well, you got a story?
Oh, hold on. Welcome to Haunt and Cold. This is episode 21. Now we can drink.
Oh, okay.
But not drink and drive.
No.
That's part of our test.
I'm drinking coffee. That's it.
You know, I thought, growing up Mormon, I thought coffee was like a drug. It's really funny how much it's not.
Yeah. Like, I thought it was, like, comparable to, like, cigarettes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because they talk about how addicting it is and how bad it is for your health and this and that. You're like, oh, man, I'll stay away from coffee. And then you just start putting it in your hot chocolate, you know?
You put coffee in your hot chocolate?
That's how it started.
Oh, you know how mine started?
How?
Getting fraps from Starbucks.
Yeah, but even still, that's not really coffee. That's just, like, frozen creamer.
Yeah, but that's how it started for me.
Yeah.
And I still just drink hot creamer now.
Yeah.
But, anyway, we're 21 now.
Yeah, welcome, everyone, to episode 21.
Sorry.
Here comes April's story.
Okay, I have to pat myself on the back because I actually did my story before yesterday.
Good job.
I had it done on Thursday night, and that's just never been a case for me, so...
That's actually really impressive. I bet yesterday you just went the whole day stress-free.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is what it's like to feel, like, prepared. So
like
nice.
Yeah, like I'm on top of my shit.
Yeah, like, I know what I'm doing. Okay, let me start my story now. I'm sorry. Okay, so, oh shit.
What?
I just want to double check that this is recording. Okay, it's recording.
I really wonder if it's just the aliens.
It has to be.
It had to
Honestly,
be
that's the only
Logical
explanation.
explanation.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the story of Gabriela Cifuentes Castilla, also known as Gaby Ramos. Now, this has a lot of Hispanic names, and I failed Spanish, so actually, I think I got a solid C in Spanish, but I'm telling you, it was all because of extra credit.
Did not resonate.
Yeah, and I remember nothing. So when it comes to pronunciations, I'm so sorry, I will do it wrong. Okay, my resources are Salt Lake Tribune, ABC4, KSL, KUTV, and those things.
Okay.
The news.
Right.
So Gabriela Cifuentes Castilla had a successful career as a psychologist in Mexico. She wanted a better life for her daughter, so she got a visa and moved to Utah with her 9-year-old daughter and got a job as a waitress. Her parents and her daughter's, I said her daughter's husband, but it's her daughter's father,
Okay.
her ex-husband.
Okay.
It's fine, I don't know how to read. Or write notes. Okay. I did this early and I still made it stupid. Okay, so they still reside in Mexico. So it was just her and her daughter that came here.
Okay.
Eventually, so they moved in with Gaby's sister in Taylorsville. Eventually, Gaby found her calling in being a radio show host. She was able to incorporate her career as a psychologist, and she created a segment in her show for kids, talking to kids in Mexico about their feelings and thoughts about whatever.
That's cool.
So, it was kind of cool.
That's cool when there's radio stations for kids, you know?
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if it was specifically for kids, but that segment was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a rock station that she played mostly rock music, and then she had a segment where she would talk to kids in Mexico over the phone and just, talk to them.
That's sweet.
She was a popular Spanish radio DJ, and it was called La Mas Picosita. I'm so sorry. The station is KMRI 1550 AM.
Do you know what that translates to?
No. It would be smart if I actually tried to look it up, but I didn't.
I was just curious. It's probably the Rising Sun Radio or something.
Picosita. Hold on. I'm going to look it up. Picosita. I don't understand.
Is it all in Spanish?
It's just... Oh my gosh, I totally failed Spanish class. I don't know. Anybody that knows, please help.
Alright.
Anyway, so she was a radio show host, and she was doing really well. She's confident and spicy, and she just her coworkers described her as a really spicy, personable woman, and she was really strong and whatever.
Yeah.
Gaby was engaged to Manuel Burciaga-Perea. Oh wow, I said that really white. Sorry, okay. And they had a very on and off again relationship, and he had a pretty intense jealousy issue. And Gaby made the decision to end that toxic relationship with Manuel. Yeah.
Is it Emmanuel?
Just Manuel.
Oh, Manuel.
Yeah. So on October 17th, 2021, Gaby and her sister, Rocio Cifuentes, were having a late night chat where they lived together. Around 1 a.m., they heard a knock at the door, and it was her jealous ex, Manuel, and he wanted to get his engagement ring back. And so he's banging on the door. He's breaking windows.
1 a.m.?
Yeah.
That's no good.
Yeah. He was breaking windows. He was, yelling and screaming and whatever. So, she opened the door and he came in, and they continued to fight and yell and whatever. So, apparently, Manuel was upset that he saw her at a party dancing with another man. And
how did he on social media or something?
No, they were at the same place. I guess. Oh, it's so green.
I know.
I love it.
June is my favorite month. Can I just say that?
Is it?
Yeah, because that's just when everything is green, the weather is perfect, and
mine's September.
Really?
Aside from Christmas, but just the leaves make me cry every year.
You get emotional about the leaves.
Well, we went on a drive through Alpine Loop when it was prime leaf season, and I was just hanging out the window with tears in my eyes, and Josh was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Is it just so pretty?"
That is so funny.
So, let's see. So, he was pissed off that he saw her dancing with another man at a party, but they were broken up at this time, right? But he's still
on a break.
Right. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so her sister Rocio called 911, and Manuel ran into Gaby's room and grabbed the engagement ring and left the house. While Rocio was on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, she let them know that Manuel had left and was like, "Can you still send a police officer in case he comes back?" Because he was out of control, right?
Yeah, and it's at 1 a.m. when you're, that's when anybody would be unprepared, I guess, for that kind of confrontation.
Yeah, so they're like, "Can you send a police officer here?" But they're like, "Yeah, we'll send a police officer. Just hang tight," basically. So There was another knock at the door, and the women believed it was a police officer, but unfortunately it was Manuel. He continued to bang on the door, and since they had 2 little girls in the house, they had Gabby's daughter in one of the other bedrooms with another one of their nieces. Mm-hmm. And so Gabby opened the door to tell him to leave. Before a second went by, Manuel raised a gun and shot Gabby 7 times in her chest, arm, and head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Rocio immediately started to try to help her sister, but Manuel pointed a gun at Gabby again and fired more shots. So Rocio told her nieces to lock themselves in her room, and then she ran into another bedroom to get her husband. When the 2 of them got back to the living room, Manuel had left. Despite the efforts of first responders, Gabby died of her wounds at 1:50 a.m. Her sister Rocio said to ABC4 Justice Files, she said, quote, "It's been really hard for me, my family, and my niece." And then, so police were searching for his vehicle. It's a 2000 Chevy full-size extended cab pickup truck with Utah license plate U405MN. The Taylorsville Police Department were unable to track Manuel's cell phone because he turned it off right after the murder. They did obtain a search warrant for Manuel's Facebook account, though. His Facebook Messenger account was active at 1:13 a.m. at the site of the shooting, and then was activated the next day from Chihuahua, Mexico. So, Manuel never returned to the room he rented in Salt Lake County. He abandoned all his things that he had at that apartment.
That's a really quick getaway.
Yeah. I was like, how do you get there in one day?
Yeah.
But they thought that maybe someone had his account information or something. Well, and they also were like, ooh, look at the color of that car.
Don't walk
what are you doing?
I don't like when pedestrians are out. I just, they're so unpredictable.
Go home.
Don't you?
Josh said he saw a blind woman being escorted across the street in downtown Salt Lake by a homeless man in a busy road, and she had her stick or whatever, and he's like, she has no idea that they're in the middle of traffic, because like
the homeless guy
was just guiding her and was like telling people to stop, you know, and Josh was like, what is happening right now? I assume she made it, but
she had to have known a little bit, right?
I mean, you'd have to hear the cars whizzing past you.
Right, and like, don't with their sticks, like, they kind of know, like, the texture of the ground.
Well, yeah, I mean, she was getting help crossing the street, but it was just in the middle of traffic.
I guess that's true. Like, she knew that she was going to cross the street, but she didn't know where she was on the street.
Yeah.
I see.
It was, I mean, good on him for helping her out, but pick a better opportunity.
So here's the issue, is I gotta get that way, but there's runners.
You're still supposed to, maybe you can turn here.
Would they let me?
I don't know.
Can I?
I think turn your signal on. He's gotta know, because he has to stop them. There's people. Okay, we're gonna make it. Maybe. Is there a way to get somewhere over there? I don't know.
Yeah, we're just gonna go that way and then see what happens.
We're confused, we don't know how to use this.
Oh, that's private property. Damn it.
I hate people that run.
Right.
I don't. Good on ya.
Just don't
But
run
stop
together.
it.
Don't run as a group.
Don't run in the road. Find a freaking trail.
Right.
Why don't they do those on trails instead of on the street? You know what I mean? Like we have running trails all over the place.
Yeah, like the Jordan River.
Yeah,
where should I go, do you think? You tell me, because
just follow the thing.
Okay.
We're confused. That's fine. The light is green for us. Go, though, girl. You got this. He, like, lets you go right when she's in front of you. He's like, okay, you're good.
Yeah. You see your target.
Yeah.
This guy's like, really? You guys again? Yes, it's us. Alright, go on with your story.
Okay.
Alright.
Yeah. Okay. So they believe that he fled to Mexico, or he was hiding out in Utah, and all in all, they really believe that he eventually fled to Mexico because they cannot find him. He's been charged with aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, obstruction of justice, aggravated assault, domestic violence in the presence of a child.
Yeah.
And a no-bail warrant has been issued for his arrest. He was last seen wearing a black hooded sweater, blue jeans, and brown shoes with white soles. So the efforts at that point kind of end there. You know, like he fled to Mexico, then that's kind of the end of that for the police anyways. Though, if you have tips, say something. So Gaby's coworkers at the radio station said, quote, walking in, knowing that she won't be back, her laughter, her brightness won't be there, it's hurting a lot. That's from DJ Monica Asuna. I don't know. So now that no one is at the mic, you can still hear her voice in her radio promo, and it's been hard for them to take it off the air. Many in the Hispanic community held a march in the honor of Gaby in November of last year, and it was called, quote, Don't Forget About Gaby Ramos. They were still hoping to ensure that authorities and the media didn't forget about Gaby's case. The march was not only for Gaby specifically, but to raise awareness about the lack of media coverage that missing people of color often receive.
Yes, exactly.
It's a huge problem, and it's sad because it's
like, why? You know?
There's no, you can't tell if they're doing it intentionally. You'd hope they're not doing that intentionally, but
So don't you think that it's not necessarily the news outlet's fault? It's kind of like the public's fault? Because like with Gabby Petito, for example, like everybody was involved. And not involved, but like interested.
Like sharing her story and whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So like what if this story has come across people's news feeds and stuff, but
and no one's sharing it?
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe it is just like it's a problem of the people.
I think it's a problem of the people. I think you're right. We found our way.
Yay! That was a struggle.
They said, quote, we are here to raise our voices to make sure cases like Gaby Ramos does not disappear, says one of the event speakers. They also said, how many times will stories of women of color continue to be sidelined as if they don't matter as much? They also said, we're not taking away from cases like Gaby Petito's, but we deserve the same energy and the same exposure as cases like hers. We just want everyone to be equal and to be included, and that's why we're here today. We have not forgotten about Gaby Ramos. She deserves justice. Another event speaker is hoping to create something called, quote, the Gaby Alert, similar to the Amber Alert, but it would alert the public of a wanted domestic violence suspect.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Organizers are hopeful to the idea that the idea could bring justice to victims of violence of domestic abuse sooner rather than later.
Yep, I like that idea. Let's sign that petition.
I know, I totally agree. Oh, look how pretty! Oh, good lord. Is it no longer the norm to, look both ways? Or do we just walk into the street?
Oh, we just walk.
Gaby's neighbor started a GoFundMe that said, our dear sister, sister-in-law, daughter, friend, and phenomenal mother to her beautiful 9-year-old was tragically shot and killed early Sunday morning by her ex-boyfriend. Gaby Cifuentes came to the U.S. to make life for her and her daughter amazing. She worked hard and valued her family. Unfortunately, her parents still reside in Mexico. Her mother suffers from Alzheimer's, and her father is unable to make the trip here. Her family is hoping to be able to send her to Mexico to provide a proper traditional ceremony for her with her family by her side. We're asking for you to reach deep into your hearts, knowing that this can and does happen to anyone, your daughter or sister, or even your best friend. She was doing everything right by getting out of a very toxic relationship when this selfish coward made the decision that her life was his to take. Her daughter's father is taking sweet Julieta back to live with him in Mexico. With the trauma she's facing, we're also asking for help for her to travel home, future counseling, education, and anything she may need.
That's so sad.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyone with information on Manuel Burciaga-Perea is asked to call 911 or police at 801-540-4000 and reference case Taylorsville PD TY21-13472.
Yeah, let's get that asshole.
Yeah.
So what does he look like again, and how old is he?
I'll post a picture on our Instagram, but I think he was last seen in Mexico.
Oh, he's been like spotted in
There was a
Mexico?
video, and I can't remember if it was a video from, I was Facebook stalking, but there was a video of him kind of in, what am I saying?
This is very distracting. This is so pretty.
I know, I am so not paying attention to what I'm saying. Look how green.
Oh my gosh.
But I can't remember if the video is him seen after the event or just before the event. But I will post information. And if you've seen him, make sure that you let the Taylorsville PD know about it. Also, domestic violence resources for people in abusive relationships can be found by contacting Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, Utah's confidential statewide 24-hour domestic violence hotline at 1-800-897-LINK, and that's 1-800-897-5465. You can also contact the YWCA Women in Jeopardy program at 801-537-8600. Are you okay?
Yeah, I just
you
want to park right here. I'm just trying to be picky about my parking spot.
Okay.
And that little girl was staring at me the whole time, so it made me nervous.
You can also contact Utah Statewide Child Abuse and Neglect Hotline at 1-855-323-DCFS. That's 1-855-323-3237. National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. And that is the story of Gabriela Cifuentes Castilla, also known as Gaby Ramos.
That is so sad. Yeah. And there's no like surveillance or anything of this guy?
No, they have not much. But I also can't say how much they've really tried. Because, mind you, Gabby Petito, they move across the country to find information and to catch her killer. But
and not only that, but the public helped.
Yeah. So, guys, share these stories. If you see them, no matter who they're about, if you see stories of people who need justice, freaking share the story, because it's unfair and it's stupid that we pick and choose who we want. Yeah.
Yeah. That is so just awful. I hate that.
Yeah.
Well, good job on your story.
Thanks.
Ready for my story?
Yeah.
Do you want to describe where we are?
We're in a canyon and it's so green. I mean, the view in our camera looks very dirt, but it's...
We'll get out and take pictures and show you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I made sure to have my stories a little bit shorter this time, because my last few have been very long.
Yeah, we've made them very long recently, so we'll give you a break from our voices.
Alright, so for this story, a lot of my information just came from rockcanyonutah.com.
Oh, okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Because we are at Rock Canyon. We're at the trailhead of Rock Canyon Trail, I guess.
I don't think I've ever done this trail.
No? It's like, I think it's 5.5 miles long, and I don't know how difficult it is, but I know there's several bridges you have to cross, and yeah.
Well,
we'll get
it's
there.
on my list of things to do this summer then.
Yeah. Alright, so we are in Provo, Utah. We are just south of Provo Canyon at Rock Canyon. And Rock Canyon is a very popular place for experienced rock climbers. Although many deaths have happened here because of the difficulty of the climb, and many deaths also came from a mine that collapsed decades ago up in the canyon. And also in the 1960s, somebody was killed by an avalanche.
Oh, that's my worst fear. I think every time we talk about things, it's my worst fear, but being buried in snow.
Oh my gosh. Because me and Mitch were just talking about like driving through a tunnel last night. Because we're talking about like, oh, what if there was a tunnel that went from like Salt Lake to Tooele? You know?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what if you're like halfway through the tunnel and it started caving in on both ends?
Okay.
Yeah, so anyway.
Just think about that every time you go through a tunnel.
Yeah. The first known death in this canyon was a man named Big Elk, and he was a leader within the Ute tribe. And that's where our knowledge of this canyon's history begins. As we know, and understandably, the early white settlers coming to this land wasn't welcomed by the natives.
Yeah.
The conflict between the natives and the settlers climaxed in 1850 when a battle broke out along the Provo River, about a mile away from here, west of here. The battle went on for days until one evening the native men retreated, and half of the men went south towards Spanish Fork, while the other half went east towards Rock Canyon. The group of men that retreated east toward Rock Canyon were led by Big Elk, but he was severely wounded and ended up dying from his wounds as soon as he reached the mouth of the canyon. With their leader down, it's rumored that the men began climbing the cliff as they had heard the Mormon militia approaching and looking for them. However, all the native men slipped and fell to their deaths, unable to climb the rock wall. I think it was this one right here.
Wow.
Yep. So that cliff was named, maybe not this one actually, because my next bullet was that cliff was named Squaw Peak. Is that Squaw Peak?
No, Squaw Peak is over in Provo Canyon.
Then wherever I got this information is wrong. So it wasn't Squaw Peak.
Oh.
It had to have been this.
As far as I know, Squaw Peak is over Provo Canyon.
Isn't Squaw Peak on the southern end of Provo Canyon though?
It's like right at the mouth of the canyon.
On the map it said that Squaw Peak was like right here somewhere.
Let's see.
So I assumed it was this one right here.
Let's see. I'm looking to see if it has a... Oh, no, we're at the right thing. But there's a Squaw Peak over in Provo Canyon.
I tried to be as accurate as I could, and I looked at so many maps, but now that we're
I
here...
wonder if this, there's a Squaw Peak lookout point at the Provo Canyon, and I wonder if this trail gets to that lookout and then comes back.
Or if the lookout just looks at Squaw Peak. Not that it is Squaw Peak. You know
That's
what I mean?
possible, yeah. But this is the Squaw Peak Trail, so
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, as far as I understand, which maybe it's wrong, I'm just going off of the website, the rockcanyonutah.com. They said this is Squaw Peak. So I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe it's that highest peak right
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm talking about, is that.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I think maybe it just...
And maybe from our angle, maybe we're looking at it funny. I don't know. Anyway.
Guess what? We don't know, but I just looked it up on All Trails Utah, and it said that this is the Squaw Peak Trail, so you're good.
Okay, perfect. So their leader was down, and the men heard these Mormon militia men looking for them, and they began climbing this rock wall to get away, and all of them slipped and fell to their deaths. Years later, there was actually, I'm not covering this part of it, but I will say that peak... Do you know what squaw is? The term squaw?
I always assumed it was talking about a bird.
No, actually, because I googled it. I'm like, I should probably look up like what this means just in case. And yeah, it's actually a term that is not to be used. It's a derogatory term towards Native American women.
It is?
Mm-hmm. And the Mormons named it Squaw Peak after a term of this woman. It's a very sad story about Black Hawk War. I don't know all the details. Either you or I will cover it.
Yeah.
This woman who was married to a chief or something, the chief had been killed, and she went and retreated to the peak, and they nicknamed it Squaw Peak after her.
Petition to change the name of Squaw Peak.
There actually is a petition, or there is like movements or whatever it is of people wanting it to be changed, like the natives that live here.
We should share it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is awful.
I know. I felt so
I thought
bad.
it was referring to a bird of some kind.
I mean, it doesn't sound like anything to us, you
yeah,
know, but
now knowing makes me not want to even say it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, horrible, right? So, with all these Native men who have died, it was also so with these Native men who have just died, it was considered a huge victory to the Mormon militia. Just 5 years later, a road was built that allowed travelers to go into Rock Canyon. And back then, people would go into this canyon to collect logs for building materials, as well as burning logs for cooking and heating their homes. So after that incident, really just the settlers took over, as they did everywhere else. By the 1860s, so just 10 years after the battle with the natives, settlers had homes and farms established on the base of the mountain and into the canyon. They found the canyon had a decent-sized creek and provided them with fresh water for drinking and watering their crops, which obviously it was yet another resource they stole from the natives. That's probably where they were getting their water from.
Yeah.
And then they were SOL. So this just makes me so mad. After a while, the settlers found that their crops weren't thriving in this area and eventually abandoned the land, but they still used the canyon to raise their cattle and their sheep. The history of this canyon isn't all that interesting after that. It just over time, it became part of, like, government property, and then it became more of a public space for people to come and do, like, recreational activities.
Yeah.
Activities such as hiking, rock climbing, camping, and black magic rituals.
What?
Etc.
Oh, just regular activities, recreational. Get your black magic going
it's
here.
Public.
In Rock Canyon.
Good old public spaces. Alright, so let's move on to the paranormal activity.
Okay.
So, some would say that the history of the tragic deaths that have happened in this canyon and at the entrance of the canyon just fuels the place with negative energy. It seems like most of the paranormal activity happens at sunset or just after sunset. I read a lot of comments of people saying that they had general feelings of being watched or feeling creeped out while hiking along the trail. Most common sighting of paranormal activity is of a man wearing 70s styles clothing, standing at the top of the cliff, and it said that this man will stand at the top and stare down at you with a smile on his face.
Ew, no, thanks.
Then, with that smile, he will then charge down the mountain at an impossible angle, running at you.
In his bell bottoms?
Yeah. Yeah, and his, like, bowl cut.
Anyways, platform shoes.
Smiling.
Oh, he's having
He's
a good
happy.
time.
So yeah, he would just run, and then as soon as he would get to the base of the mountain, he'd vanish. And what's crazy is that law enforcement know about this because they've gotten calls of people being concerned, being like, there's some lunatic running down the mountain.
Nuh-uh.
Like, yeah.
Does it happen at night? When does
Yeah,
that happen?
sunset.
Oh, you said that already.
Yep.
Oh, well, it'd really help if I had listened to your story.
Yeah, so that's it about that.
Well, he chose quite an interesting wardrobe for his afterlife outfit.
Right.
For his ghost outfit.
I wonder if he was like, I hate 70s clothing. And then, like, that's just his hell. You know?
His worst fear is running down a mountain in 70s clothes.
Yep.
So he spends eternity doing that.
Yeah, that's his punishment.
He also hates smiling.
Yep. He never smiled for pictures.
Yeah. That's gonna be Josh's hell if he ever gets there, is he has to take pictures for eternity.
At sunset, some have claimed to see an apparition of a person standing at the trailhead, which is just right there behind us. Some say that the spirit of a little girl haunts the creek. People claim to have seen her jumping rock to rock in the middle of the water, but when you go to get a better look, she vanishes.
Oh.
Sometimes, if you listen closely, you can hear her humming a song.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Hikers have claimed that the further you go into the trail, the more likely you'll get an overwhelming feeling of paranoia.
Paranoia?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people hiking this.
Yeah. I don't know.
Just don't go too far, you'll go crazy.
You might get scared. I found, you know how, like, you can go on social media and there's, like, the events tabs?
Yeah.
And, like, people invite you to things.
I've never experienced it, but yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, me either. I just kind of, like, as a hypothetical. It's like, you know, the buttons there.
If you had friends.
Like, you know it's supposed to happen. The notifications never show up. I found past events that I was never invited to, where people have gotten together to do paranormal investigations here at Rock Canyon. And while I didn't find any evidence of what people have found here, I only found, like, stories of what people have experienced.
Wow.
So I couldn't find, like, any videos of EVPs is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, dang.
I know. Or any pictures of anything weird. I came across this creepy freaking story on Reddit. And I think... Hold on. This story was posted on the subreddit called Ghost Stories, and it was posted about 3 years ago by a user named Green Thumb Witch. And I never learned what their name is. Like, they tell this story using other people's names, but never introduce what their name is, so they're just the Green Thumb Witch.
Okay.
So, they said they came here with 2 of their friends and their dogs, and they had been hiking the Rock Canyon Trail when they decided to stop for a water break. At this point, they said that the sun was beginning to go down, and just as they stopped, they heard a loud banging noise and swishing sounds coming from the trees next to them. They described it as a sound unlike anything they'd ever heard before, but they said it sounded like a very large drum. The dogs were instantly spooked, and their fur was standing on top of their backs. They got a gut feeling to get the hell out of there, so they ended up turning back, not finishing their hike that night. The experience gave them such curiosity that when they got home, they wanted to look it up and like try to make sense of what had just happened. But come to find out, Rock Canyon is considered one of the most haunted places in Utah.
Really?
As a paranormal hobbyist, they became filled with curiosity. So they rounded up a group of friends and some equipment and set out on a Friday so they can capture whatever evidence they could find of paranormal activity. The group started their journey, and in the first 5 minutes of walking, they all collectively said that they felt the energy shift and were starting to get a bit creeped out. They decided to take the left fork on the trail, and when they headed that way, the spirit box that they were using said 3, like the number 3. Apparently, it repeated that number several times throughout their hike. Outside of what they were picking up on their equipment, like EMF readings or the spirit box going off, they began to hear what sounded like chains rattling and humming and whistling sounds off in the distance. But the entire time it sounded like it was coming from the left side of the canyon. They reached one of the mining caves and shined their flashlights inside. Not really seeing anything, but they did notice there was a small gap where someone could maybe squeeze through to get inside of the mine. Their friend Brian decided that he would give it a try. But as soon as he got on the ground, their equipment started showing strong activity towards the mine. As soon as Brian got one leg in, the spirit box said the word leg. So the group told Brian to stop and step away. Then he, quote, finally listened. They decided to hang out there by the mine shaft to do a little EVP session. As they sat there, they heard faint sounds of humming and whistling. They discussed whether or not they had enough and if they should go back. But Brian and their other friend, Jenny, convinced everyone that since they had made it up this far, they might as well keep going. It had been a couple hours since they had seen anybody on the trail, but when they continued on, they saw a group of BYU college kids coming down. They said as
That's
the group...
scary enough. Just kidding.
Right. Well, I was thinking about that too. I'm like, if you're going hours into this trail and you don't see anyone and it's nighttime, then you see a group, I feel like that would spook me. 'Cause it's like, is that a friendly group or not a friendly group?
Right.
But that's just me being paranoid.
But they're all wearing BYU shirts, and you're like...
Okay. Like, so we'll see you on church on Sunday.
Right.
They said that when the group passed them, their equipment that they were using for ghost hunting went completely silent, as if whatever they were picking up on didn't want the other group to be aware of it.
Or because they were from BYU, it wards off evil.
Yeah.
Their BYU hat.
They just had the light of Christ with them.
Yeah,
that's just
the armor of God. It just,
yep. Sword and shield, man. Yep. As they continued, they passed a few different bridges, and each one was labeled with a different number. They noticed that each bridge that they would pass, the energy felt like it would become increasingly stronger, and the noise that they were hearing would become louder and louder. Then, they came up to bridge number 3, and the temperature dropped about 10 degrees. They began hearing the sound of rushing water, but yet under the bridge, the riverbed was completely dry. And in that same moment, they began to smell an awful odor in the air.
Sulfur.
Yeah, maybe. Or aliens.
Yeah, we've heard they were stinky.
Yeah. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's all connected. Who knows?
Maybe aliens are the devil.
Yeah, maybe. The whole hike so far had been partially lit by the moon, but the group came to a part in the trail where the path narrows and goes into a thick foresty trees, and all of the moonlight was blocked, and they said you could hardly see anything without a flashlight. They said, quote, at this point, everything in me was telling me not to keep going, so we stopped as a group and talked. Everyone except for Jenny. And we'll hear about Jenny later.
Oh, okay.
But they said as soon as they were huddled in a circle, they began to feel uneasy and an overwhelming sense of doom. And that's when their spirit box said 2 words. Go and big.
Go big or go home. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna go.
Yeah, let's just go. They began running back down the trail. When they finally got to the first bridge that they had passed on the trail, they stopped to catch a breath. They said that they felt safer, but Jenny told them not to let their guard down quite yet because they were still being followed.
How does Jenny know that?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Jenny told Brian to shine his flashlight behind them the rest of the way because they were definitely being followed. They walked for about 10 minutes when their friend Kayla began to have a seizure.
Seizure?
Yeah. Jenny ran over to assist and protect her during the spasm and tried to calm everyone else down at the same time. She told them to think of something positive like a white bunny with big brown eyes. Kayla stopped sneezing and the group settled down a little bit. That's when they heard rustling in the bushes next to them, and out jumps a white bunny with big brown eyes.
No. What?
They said the rest of the walk down the trail was much calmer, and they were able to process some of their thoughts at that point.
How would you process that so fast? It would take me weeks. I'd be like, what did I see?
Right.
Was it real? Was I hallucinating?
Right.
Like, that was quick. Quick processing. They probably have better emotional control.
Or they were just, like, expecting weird stuff to happen.
So they were, like, cool
trying
with it.
Yeah, they were, like, trying to come up with answers.
Yeah,
I guess
if they went there with the intention of experiencing things, rather than if they're just on a hike and they experience all these things.
Like, not expecting
that
it.
would make sense.
Yeah. One thing that they almost all agreed upon was that the bunny that they saw seemed to be domesticated. They discussed what could have possibly been the reason for Kayla's seizure, though. And that's when the spirit box said, monster. They reached the trailhead, and Kayla was still feeling sick and weak, so they decided to huddle together to do a protective ritual so that nothing would harm them or follow them home. Their spirit box then said the word, protect. The next day, Green Thumb Witch talked to Jenny because they were curious about what they were doing before the spirit box told them to go. Apparently, Jenny has a sensitivity to the spiritual realm ever since she flatlined in a hospital years prior to the story.
What?
She said when they were huddled together, Jenny stepped away because she sensed that there were 4 spirits around them. 2 of them were benign, 1 was evil, and 1 was something that she just didn't recognize.
Ooh.
Jenny said that she saw something attack Kayla when she was seizing and believes that whatever entity that was the one that she couldn't recognize. Kayla theorized that it's possible that it was a shape-shifting entity, and that would explain why they happened to see a white bunny with brown eyes after they were all trying to think of something positive.
I don't like that one bit.
The end.
The air feels thick.
I'm having a hard time breathing.
I'm just waiting. All I can picture is Fez running down the hill.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. And he says it right at the top of the thing, and then he starts coming at you.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Thanks for listening to episode 21.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, so thanks for that.
Yeah, so we have cool stuff, though. Hopefully we have our merch posted on our website. If not, it'll be soon, and we hope to grow it, but, we have to start small. But we also have some limited edition merch, as well as, if you sign up for Patreon, you actually get some of those stuff with your Patreon pledge. Just a thought.
Yep.
You also get extra content. You get video content. You can get, randomness.
Yeah.
If we do investigations, we'll post those videos or any evidence we get. So it's not like you get stuff every day, but you'll get extra stuff that other people don't get to see.
Yeah.
Especially if you're someone who wants episodes every week, which we just can't do right now. We'll also have On Deck at Dusk episodes. So all kinds of things that are extra. Extra. Read all about it. You like that accent? I don't know how to do a New York accent. Extra.
That was your attempt at a New York accent.
Or like, the little kids that have their little...
But extra, read all about it.
There you go. Good job.
Thanks.
I really want to watch Newsies now.
That was exactly where my inspiration came from.
Open the gates and seize the day.
Okay, anyway. Okay, so...
Okay, bye.
Wait, hold on. There's something else. Hold on. What do we usually say at the end of this?
There's social media.
Yeah. Instagram,
all
Twitter.
Kinds of things you can see us or look at us through.
Listen, how'd you get here?
Honestly, if this is the first episode you're listening to,
Go back.
go back and listen to episode 1.
Yeah, do yourself a favor. Okay.
We gotta go.
Yep.
This is rough. Okay.
Okay, bye.